Hi, people. Thank you for stopping by at Building Wealth with Rajeev. Growth stocks are still under pressure. Inflation fears continue to haunt stock markets. Anyway, as promised last week, I'm posting part two of my discussion with Kris, the growth investing guru. In this episode, Kris talks about his two favorite picks and also how he would allocate his imaginary $1 million.
That's one of the first questions I usually get. Oh, I have this sum. How should I invest? And my standard answer is take your time. Take your time in several ways. First and for all, take your time by spreading out that amount over a few years.
Mhm.
Bring it in slowly, maybe every 2 weeks or so. I invest every 2 weeks. I add to my portfolio every 2 weeks, maybe every month or maybe every week, as you want, and depending on the amount. I don't think it's a big problem if you want with a $1 million. You can do that every week, and a certain amount. Now, let's say that we have a crash like last year, 30% down. You could say, oh, I'm just saying something. Normally, I bring $10,000 in every 2 weeks. I'm just saying something.
Mm.
You could say that. Well, it's down 20%. I'm going to add 20,000.
Mm.
Oh, it's down 30%. I'm going to add 30,000. And in that way, you can buy more when the stock market is down,
Mm.
and then you average out the rest as well, because you don't know if it will stop at 30%. Of
Mm.
course, it could go down to 40 or 50 or 56%, like in 2008, 2009.
Mm.
And you could add more and more and more each time. So that is take your time, part one. Take your time, part two is take your time to get to know the companies that you invest in. You shouldn't just throw money at names. I hear that used a lot. Oh, this name is, and I'm always irritated. It's not a name; it's a company. And
The
yeah,
business.
I think it's very important to know the company well and to know what it does and why it's a good one or not. So don't just throw in some money um, because it's a hip name or you have heard about it. You should really know what the company does. You should know what it will be doing in the future and what the path is. And often people underestimate their own um, power as well. What I mean is, you can see a company and think, wow, this is what I want personally. Um, I live in Belgium, and I would I would really love to have a Peloton bike. It's not on the market here yet,
Yeah.
but I would really want it. And if you look at your own feeling, and then you use that own feeling in your research, and then you see that Peloton has a net promoter score of 94, the second highest of all brands after Tesla. Well, then you know that this is something special and that you should look a bit deeper. And I started out with cynicism as well. Peloton is it's just a bike with an iPad
Yeah.
on it,
Yeah.
and then I saw what it all did, and how people were really part of the community. And
Yeah.
that
Pretty
that's
active,
that's that's what I thought. Man, I want this too, and that can help you um, research a company better. Of course, you cannot know everything, and yeah, that's where the studying comes in again. I mean, if you look at Cloudflare, for example, or CrowdStrike, it's a much more difficult company to understand, maybe. But if you read quality content there, you'll get to know it, and it may take a few months then. Well, just start buying after a few months then. So, and that's why that spreading out, it's better to dollar cost average, but in a way it's also better to buy yourself the time to get to know the companies that you're buying, because they are companies and not just paper.
but there would be some allocation in terms of starter stocks, risky stocks, something like that, right? I mean,
Mm.
how
Yeah,
do you
well, I have I
how
have
to
I
do that?
have I have three buckets in my portfolio. I have the potential multi-baggers. Potential multi-baggers they I see the potential there for 1,000% gains over the next 10 years, so 10x and more. Yeah, because and of course they can do it faster as well. Shopify has, I think, 12x already since I recommended it in 2017. So that will probably be up more over the next years. And then, so potential multi-baggers have, but the, volatility works both ways. I always say, people often look at volatility when it goes down, but volatility also works up.
It pays more when it goes down.
It just, the scale is bigger, and but people always look at volatility as something negative because they only look at it when the stock goes down, and if it's down, 10% on a day, oh no, but they haven't seen that it has been up 3 times more than 10% in the last year or something like that. Then it's normal. So potential multi-baggers are quite volatile, and that's something you should know. If you know, because you will always think that you can handle that until you're there, right? Until it happens. I have already said everybody is a long-term investor until the market crashes 20%, right? So that's why I also have 2 other buckets, because I'm human as well, and I have 2 other buckets, and the first one is anchor stocks. Or the second one, sorry, is anchor stocks, and anchor stocks are bigger companies, which I can still see beating the market over the next 10 years. And we have already named Amazon, Adobe is another one, Salesforce, stocks like ServiceNow, although you could you could argue about that one, but those kind of, all of them are bigger than 100 billion companies. So they bring some stability to your portfolio. That's why I also call them anchor stocks. And then you have a third class, and that is the budding anchors. And budding anchors are companies which could become anchor stocks, and they're something like 30-40 billion companies, like Peloton, for example. And I could still see them go up 500% over the next 10 years and more. The potential is there that they go 10x as well. If you look at Amazon 10 years ago, it was an 85 billion company or something like that. And you could have said it's a budding anchor, but it has gone up. What was it, 17 times or so, or 16 times
plus now,
So there's still that potential for higher returns, but they are a bit less volatile than the potential multi-baggers. And now, how do you weigh those 3 buckets? That's completely up to you, and that's up to you in that sense that you have to know who you are, and that should be reflected in your portfolio. For myself, I have about I think 65% in potential multi-baggers, something like 20% in budding anchors, and then 50% in anchor stocks. And but if you are afraid of volatility, if you know that you feel bad if your whole portfolio is down 7 or 8% in a day, well, maybe you should allocate a bit more to anchor stocks, and then and especially if you're just starting out, I think those anchor stocks are better, because they can still, well, they often still move more than the general market, and that's also why I think they will beat the general market. And but they're not, that crushing feeling of down 15% on a day, and I don't know why.
I think, Kris, this has been a big influence in my thinking to give a structure, because 3 years ago, I was heavily invested in these anchor stocks, and I just thought that this is fine. But after I started discussing with you, I've kind of sold a lot of anchor stocks, started going into budding anchors, started going into multi-baggers. So multi-baggers are still not not 65% a part of my portfolio, But
Hmm.
over a time, when I get more and more comfortable, I develop those muscles to
Hmm.
deal with that
Hmm.
volatility. And right
Yeah.
now, it's a test of that.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
that's exactly how it goes.
yeah,
I had to learn it myself, and then that's you really have to build that muscle memory, and
yeah,
and get comfortable with those drawdowns, which are inevitable, of course. And that's one of the great things of our community, that we support each other there, and that we say, and that we do reverse bragging. Oh, I'm down 7%. Haha, I win. I'm down 8% today.
I saw that. I saw that.
Yeah, so it's better to make fun, because what would it help to cry?
Yeah. And I get it. So this is useful. This is really useful. I mean, if people listen to this and implement this framework, I think this is a very good framework to kind of start with the hypothesis, or start with the assumption, or start with the ambition that you want to beat index. That's the big thing. And then when you
Hmm.
want to beat the index, the first thing you take stable companies which are likely to beat index. And
Yeah.
then you take companies which are going to hammer the index big time. And there is a
Hmm.
bit of risk element in that. And then
Hmm.
overall, over a long period of time, there's good possibility that you end up beating the index.
Well, just one minor correction there.
Yeah.
A risk. I don't like that word. I
Okay.
mean, it's often misused. I think volatility. I call it volatility,
Okay.
because volatility and risk are not the same. Risk for me is the
Unknown.
possibility that you lose your money. That's risk for me. And but I know traditionally it has been called risk if it goes up
Yeah. Yeah. Again,
more or
it's
down more.
very
So,
conventional term, and I think the risk is when you don't know where you're going. But if you
oh
know
yeah,
where you're going,
yeah.
then people may say it's risk, but it may not be risk for you because you know where
Oh,
it's relative.
couldn't agree more. Couldn't
Yeah,
agree
yeah,
more.
yeah. So no, I think it's really useful. I think no, I think I just want to get a little bit specific, Chris, with you. And I know how hard you study the companies. My God. So let's talk about. I think very important for people to know two companies we take and kind of talk a little bit about them, which are high conviction companies, and then
But
yeah,
yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So I
I
think
thought I had.
two companies I think we can talk about which you passionately feel about. One, they could be multi-baggers, or which
Mhm.
which are good.
Well, I have already shouted out my love for C Limited. I think
Yeah,
a lot. You're close to the well,
yeah.
um,
Singapore. Yeah,
and I think C Limited is, if we talk about execution, I mean, it's incredible, the execution that it has. If you look at what they just did in Brazil, they launched in October 2019, I think, and they were already the biggest uh, company or e-commerce company. If you look at apps only, that's an
yeah,
important nuance that I don't see everywhere.
yeah.
It's not the biggest one yet, but I mean, it's unbelievable how they do that. And you can look at all of their undertakings, and that no, they have the help of Tencent, which is a giant, of course, and Purima is one of the great leaders of our time.
Yeah.
And but Tencent is actually a bit limited in that sense, that they cannot easily go outside of China,
Uh,
except with their games, of course. Um, C doesn't have that limit, and
the scaling issue.
sorry.
They don't have a scaling issue. Like
No, they don't have a scaling issue at all. Well, Tencent doesn't have a scaling issue in that sense in China, but outside of China, it's more difficult.
yeah,
But I wouldn't have expected that Shopee would have crushed it already in Brazil so fast. Now they are going into Mexico, and it will be the same. So the execution of C is incredible, and they start up new projects just like Amazon has always done. They look, does it work? Yes or no. If it doesn't, they kill it without a blink and move on to the next idea. And You know, C is actually several companies in one. You have Garena, their gaming company, and that's really a cash cow, and that cash fuels Shopee. Shopee is their e-commerce arm. Only started in 2015, so we're still very early. Despite the fact that C is already a 125 billion company, it's actually still early, and you know, it was an experiment as well, because everybody said, Forrest Lee, the founder CEO of C, you're crazy for us to do this. You know, e-commerce is not profitable. You shouldn't do it. You have this great gaming company. Stay with your core competence. Blah 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 blah. And you know, if you know, it makes sense if you use common sense.
Yeah.
But the greatest visionary CEOs don't use common sense. They go against the grain, and that's what he did as well. And Shopee is now actually, especially in several countries, it's close to profitability or is already profitable. Now you also have C Money,
Yeah.
and that's then actually their venture capital arm, as it were, in that sense that or their very early company. If you look at what C Money brings in right now, if you look at the total of the revenue, it's close to nothing. It's I don't remember exactly, but it was low single digits. And but if you look at what Mercado Pago has meant for Mercado Libre, and you see that C Money is exactly the same thing, but much faster than any other company I've ever seen, including Amazon. You know that they are going to make that into a great business as well. And now they also started an AI branch. They started a venture capital branch with which they will start investing in other companies. You know, the Tencent model, and you know, they don't stop. They have seafood. They start.
Also, right?
Excuse me.
Delivery.
Yeah, food delivery. So you know, they still have a lot of opportunity or lots of opportunities left, and with their execution and their geographical expansion into Latin America, I mean, it's a 125 billion company. I could still easily see it as a time bagger of the next 10 years. So, yeah.
See, I think, Chris, you know, I looked at these numbers in their Brazil numbers.
Brazil.
I was surprised that how can a Singapore-based company go to Latin America and, you know,
I think the reason is that they have seen what works in gaming, and they know how you can make something viral, and they know how they can make people talk about what they offer. And I think that is not stressed enough in the story of C, that they know how to play the public. That could sound a bit negative, but I mean, in a very positive way. They know what people want. That's maybe a better thing to say. They know what they want, and they are used to using the data to you know, if in gaming everything is measured, and those data give insightful information.
Yeah.
And they do the same thing with Shopee, which I don't think Amazon does that to a certain extent and has always been very good at that. But because of their gaming experience, C is even at a higher level, and that's why they go viral. Actually, that's you cannot say anything else if in what is it 15 months or something like that they go to 35 million users. You know, that's going viral, and they do that with a shopping app. That's the reason, I think, because they look at their data, and they know very well from their data what the people want.
Okay.
So, and
I think
they
this is a
play
great
to it.
insight. This is a great insight that using the expertise of one pillar, Garena, not just the cash from Garena, but also what they've learned from Garena, and they're
Mhm.
implementing it on other thing. I think this is fantastic. I think C is one company. Yes, I think a lot of people, I guess, C is darling for a lot of hedge funds now, and a lot of retail investors are into C, so it's gaining a lot of prominence. Okay, now let's move to another company. What would be your second favorite?
Huh. Um, Maybe Cloudflare now.
Oh yeah.
um, and the reason is that it's one of the most innovating companies of our time.
Mm,
They started out with a CDN, and CDN is content delivery network, and that's actually quite a commodity. Um, if you look at Akamai, which is the biggest player in that field,
mm,
it grows by high single digits, something like
mm,
that, 8
mm,
9% or so. Um, but Cloudflare has taken content delivery to a whole new level in that sense that um, they started working on edge computing actually,
mm,
and they already released their first product in 2018 as actually the first
mm,
one
mm,
with um, with that capacity.
mm,
Um, and they are really working from the ground up. It's a typical innovator in that sense that a lot of other companies are seen as better quality or bigger or
mm,
um, and Cloudflare was the smaller one, or is still the smaller one if you compare it to Akamai or Amazon and Microsoft, who are also in the content delivery network. But what Cloudflare has done is that it has a very lean and flexible structure in its POPs, so points of presence. And you have to see that those are data center close to you. And that means that if, the Internet of Things is coming, and if you have, or for example, autonomous cars. Let's take that example. You need a constant connection to the internet for autonomous cars, but it also has to go fast. Yeah, and that's where the edge comes in. So the edge is a data center close to you. Now, what Cloudflare is building on is that it's that those data don't have to go to the core cloud. So it doesn't have to go to AWS, to Azure, Google Cloud, or whatever, and they can run programs on that edge, on that data set which is close to you.
yeah.
Now, um, if you look at projections, um, there are estimates that in 7-8 years maybe, and I always take those with a grain of salt. I always think that projections are correct but not the years. So let's say maybe in 10 years or so, about 70% of the data will never go to the core cloud, will never go to AWS or Azure or whatever. They will stay on the edge, and they will be computed there. And so why? So there are only, in my view, there are only two players who are destined to be the leaders there, and that's Fastly and Cloudflare. What Cloudflare has above Fastly is that it was earlier in 2018 already, while a Compute at Edge, Fastly's product, has only been released now, well, a few months ago, but not to the full public yet. So it's, it had been in beta for a year or something like that. And what you see is that Cloudflare constantly makes small improvements, which developers love because they give them new possibilities, and those improvements really stack up. And last year, Cloudflare had introduced or has introduced more than 550 new products and new services. And Matthew Prince, the CEO of Cloudflare, said, well, this year we're going to try to accelerate that. Wow. I mean, 550 new.
I think, Chris, the founders of Cloudflares are very hugely driven people. I mean, I read them, I follow them on Twitter, I read about them. I think they're a different breed. I think their
Mm,
DNA is very, very different.
yeah, it's you know, I love their mission statements to make the internet better. Wow.
Yeah.
And that's also something, one of the key elements that I always see coming back in the greatest companies. You know, Amazon, we want to be the most consume centric company in the world. You know,
Yeah.
those big goals, which are essentially almost unachievable, if they live up to that, you know, then you have a huge winner. And I think, I think Cloudflare could be such a huge winner. I mean, it has gone up already quite a bit since we
Mm.
picked it as a potential multi-bagger, but it still has. It's a 25 billion company, somewhere around that.
Yeah.
Could I still see it go 10x and be a 250 billion company in 2031? Oh yes, definitely, and maybe higher as well. Because you know, I just for the record, I don't think that the data of AWS, of Azure, will go down. Those
Mm.
30% that I talked about that will stay, that will go to the core cloud, will be bigger than the 100% that goes to the core cloud now, because we will generate so much more data. You, you know, those things always come slower than people think. They always think that something new comes with a bang, but it doesn't. It's slow incremental changes.
And when you
And
develop,
you
then
know, I have a Fitbit, and maybe you have a wearable as well, and you even 5 years ago, nobody had that, or almost nobody. And that's the change that people don't see, because it's so natural and it's such a small step at a time. But you know, the Internet of Things will become huge. You know, let's say in the next 10 years, and there will be so much data from that. It will be everywhere, not just in consumables and wearables. It will be the medical Internet of Things as well. It will be for agriculture. It will be in industry. You know, in even the oldest industries that we have, steel and those kind of things. Everything will be measured, and to optimize the process, and to gain you know, to gain dollars and to gain efficiency. And
addressable market is huge,
it is huge,
and
yes.
it will
And
expand.
it will continue to expand, and that's also one of the things I like about Cloudflare. Cloudflare says at this moment our total addressable market is, I think it's 50 billion, but we don't count the Internet of Things because we cannot know.
Yeah.
So you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's for people who sometimes think, I was like that a long time ago, so I always add that now. A total addressable market is yearly. That's very important to know. So that's each year.
That's where DCF will go wrong. Discounted cash flow.
Yeah, well, that's one of the problems as well. How do you factor in that they will bring, you know, more than 550 new products and services in the next year? And again, if you look at what Cloudflare projected for 2020, they projected 36% growth. It was 50, and that has been each and every quarter. They have grown by 50%, whatever the projections were. So, and I think that will continue as well. They have now projected something similar, at 36% growth or so. I think it will be very close to 50% again. And that's again the same theme, you know, beating and beating and beating. And those beatings again together all add up.
So one common theme across your investing, and I think I might be just guessing, is that you kind of believe in a founder-driven companies quite a lot. You talked about Shopify founder, then you went on to talk about C founder, then you're talking about Cloudflare founder. So I think you have kind of a belief and inclination towards the founder-driven, vision-driven companies.
I'm driven to visionary CEOs, and often those are founders because they had the vision to foresee where the future was heading, or their industry was heading. But I also own the DocuSign, for example, which is not a founder-led company. It's led by Dan Springer,
Yeah.
and I mean I really love him as a CEO as well. He's not a founder, but he's a great visionary CEO. And one of the comments that he gave, I really thought were insightful, was everybody is talking. DocuSign has worked out the agreement cloud, and he says, well, everybody is talking now about the agreement cloud, and that they are going into the agreement cloud. Once they are there, we will already be in a new place, and that's typical talk for a visionary CEO. You could sometimes even find it a bit arrogant, but they live up to what they say, and it's the same with if you look at the best actors or basketball players or whatever, they do the same thing. They say we're going to do this, and they do it. And that's what I look at. And very often those are founders, but not exclusively. But yeah, for a big part, yeah.
Now, Kris, I just want to thank you, and thank you for the time for the interview. I know you don't come on camera, so you came.
Well, yeah. Well, as a lot of people, I don't like my face, I think. But I'm here now.
Yeah. And second thing is that I'm thankful for the contribution you're making to people. Your knowledge, your simplicity, and your commitment to your people, I think, is exemplary. So I think I'm grateful to you. I'm thankful to you, and thank you for giving me time. Hopefully, you'll give me time again. And
sure.
And thank you so much. And have a good day.
Thank you, Rajeev. It was a great conversation with you. Bye.
Hi, people. Thank you for watching the video. I hope you find the content useful. If you like the content, please share, like, and subscribe to the video channel. And you may want to press that bell icon there so that you know as soon as I post something. In the meantime, keep smiling, keep hustling, and keep building.